Hey, it's Dale. Just wanted to go over strip piecing with you. Maybe you've heard of that, but maybe you don't know what it is. So, just really quickly, um, what you do is you take your fabric, cut it into strips. I have chosen to do 3.5 inches. I find that for just a random block quilt, that's about a good size. Doesn't make too much work, and you can do it pretty quick. So, you have strips of fabric that are 3.5 inches wide. Put them together, face to face, right? Face to face, like this. So your 1/4 inch seam allowance down the end, all the way down. All right? Long strips. So when you cut the original fabric, you're actually going to end up with strips that are really quite long, right? And sew that together all the way down. Just mark the beginning with this. In this case, I'm doing it with a pin so that I know where I started. And this is going to be important later on. All right. Okay, so I went through and sewed all of my strips together, flagging each one of them at the top of where I began sewing the strip. So as we come along here, I know that this, where this pin is, with this kind of orange color on it, is the beginning of my strip that I've sewn. So now that they're all sewn, I'm going to separate them. Okay, they are all separated. Some of them are longer than others, and I have the pin at the top always identifying where I started on this. What you do now is open it up. You have to take the pin out to do this, which is fine, but you want to put the pin back in so that you always know which is the top and which is the bottom, where you started sewing and where you finished sewing. Alright, I'm going to iron this open now. So I've ironed it open, and what happens is, why you want to identify what is the top and what is the bottom is because as you're sewing, the feed dogs pull through the bottom fabric just a little bit faster as the top one drags along, and it gives you a bit of an arc. I don't know if you can see it on this one or not, but what would happen if you kept lining them up with all the arcs going the same way is that you would end up with your fabric kind of doing a rainbow kind of effect, which is going to cause a real problem in your work. Okay, so I have my strips sewn, 2 and 2, and by the way, if we were doing a 9 patch, I would be doing 2 and then an additional 1, but that's a different tutorial. We'll cover that then. So we have 2 strips, 2 strips. We know that we started at the top here because of my pins are both at the top of these. So we want the pins to be both at the top because before we started here and went down, so we're going to put these together so both pins are here, but we're not going to start sewing where the pins are. We're going to start sewing at the other end so that the slight arc that we get when we do a long strip like this works against the other two, because these two are arcing the same way because they were sewn in the same direction. So we want to put a little arc in the other one, starting in the different direction, starting from here and working our way down to the pins. Okay, so we have our 4 strips here, and because the original strip itself was 3.5 inches, we'll take our ruler and let me just cut off the excess end part here. When you are measuring this, try and get the line across the middle to match up with the line that you're measuring here, and then also just kind of track it at the top and bottom to make sure that you're absolutely as square as possible. We'll just get rid of that. Then we'll just cut our 3.5-inch strips. Cut a bunch of those, and then we can start sewing them together. So now my strips are in 4s, and I'm ready to sew those together. So now I have that done, and then I'll just add them together again. So then you put those two sides together, and that's it. You have a 16 patch. If I'm going to be doing a random quilt, basically I will throw a bunch of 16 patches together. It's a lot less sewing than you probably thought it was going to be. Hope you learned something. Bye.